So when it comes to doing blush application for your child, is we have the Desert Rose for the competition color. I like to go through with a simple rounded powder brush. So anything that's not super big, so when in comparison to their face, you want something that's going to cover a good amount of area without overwhelming their whole face. So one thing I can do is, especially with like her, she's a great example, is her cheeks don't tend to be super round. They're a little bit more flat to her face. So if you're having issues identifying where your child's cheeks are, have them smile, because their apples will instantly form on them. So what I like to go through is I like to go through and almost tap my brush onto the product versus swirling. The reason why I tap is because I'm picking up just a little bit of product, because you can always layer and add. It's a little harder to kind of tone down. So go ahead and smile again for me. We're going to start right in the apples of that cheek and then brush back towards the top of the ear and brush gently down. And then go ahead and relax for me, because now you can see where their natural cheekbone wants to sit. So going through, brushing back and down, this kind of gives you the ability to kind of blend it out and make it look not like you have this giant circle of color on their cheek, because we're taking it back into the high planes of their cheekbones and accentuating that, and also bringing it down where the natural flushing would be if they had an athletic glow going on. And with this one is the blush, you want to be a little heavier handed. So in person you might feel like, wow, that's a little bit of blush, but on stage underneath all of those lights really far away, it will look the way it's supposed to, which is a little bit more subtle. So in person it might be a little bit more of intensive colors, a little bit more intensive application. But that's because with the distance and the lights, it will wash it all out. So same thing is go ahead and smile for me. Starting those apples, brushing back and a little down.
They're cute. They're really cute. You like them? Yeah, I just bought them packs of them.
And then you can relax your smile.
All right, sister. And also,
so then as you can see on both sides, she has that nice strong blush for competition. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys some lip tips for when it comes to doing application of lipstick on your child, because this can be a hard time. So ideally you don't want them to be yelling or talking. It's going to make your life way easier. Going through and kind of doing that same technique about the eyes, where I said you're going to use the side of the pencil versus the tip, the same thing goes for your lips. Also, whatever you do on one side, you would like to mimic on the other side. So what that means is, go ahead and gently part for me, is if you're going to pull in from this side, you want to pull in from the other side. The reason being is A, it's going to make balancing their lip shape way easier for you, and B, what happens is for some reason once you pass the center of the apex, or basically the center of the body, the angles change. So you might have one side that's really square and angular, and the other side might be more on the round side. So by continuing on whatever you do on the other side is going to give you the most even balanced lip shape for yourself and for your child in one step. So we are going to do short little strokes with the side of the pencil and pulling it into the lip. Do not be afraid to fill it in. This will make your job a little easier too when it comes to lipstick application, because instead of having like this thick line that you have to then blend to, you now have something that's going to be right there on the top. So same thing, pulling in from the other side, not being afraid to color in the lip. So when it comes to doing the Cupid's bow, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult, especially if your child doesn't have a predominant Cupid's bow. So the best tip ever is to draw an X on their lips. So you're going to start on the upper part of the Cupid's bow and pull down in tiny little strokes, and then doing the same thing on the other side. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a balanced lip shape based off of that X. So it's something that you can do just to simply cross it out. We're going to go through again and before and just kind of connect the dots. So now we have the tip of the lip done. So the same thing like we done the bottom is we're just going to do short little strokes in the same direction. So since I'm pulling down on this side, I'm going to pull down on this side, using the length of my pencil again to make my job as easy as possible. Don't be afraid to fill in a little bit of their top lip as well. Because you can already see by using a little bit of that pencil, you created a really easy map for you to follow when it comes to doing the lipstick. If you wanted just to take your tube and go to town, write on their lips now that you've had that ability to, you can. I'm going to be using a brush just because mine are depotted in the palette. I like using a brush just because too, it gives me a little bit more control over it. So with the D for danger. You're going to go through and press it in.
I've been looking around. I found a fully clean the next episode. It's like this clean version.
Alright, I'm just going to warm mine up a little bit just because mine sit in the palette so they get a little firmer. So like I said, I like to use a brush just because it gives me the ability to kind of round out and smooth out edges. You can also use the tip of the lipstick bullet as well just to kind of blend it for them. Perfect. So now you have this really nice graphic bold lip for them. Super easy to achieve. You can go through and use a Q-tip if you need to, clean up any specific shapes. Or if you feel like you've got a little messy, you can go through and clean that up. You can even use a little bit of the foundation if it's a liquid or powder, depending on what it is, with a small little brush too, and kind of clean up specific areas if you need to, if you got a little messy. Always to take breaks in between this. Don't try to rush through it because sometimes unexpected things might come up, like they might have to sneeze or a watery eye or things like that. So giving them the ability to have those natural things that happen to them while you're in the process of doing this will save you more time long term because you don't have to rush through certain areas and you're gonna feel more confident. Definitely doing a practice run is also highly recommended just so that you can feel comfortable in how your child reacts to when you put certain things on their face. Because you'll kind of know how their eyes will fidget, sometimes their lips will move, and you can kind of help control that and troubleshoot that so day of it's not as crazy. Perfect.
All right, the final face.